Alright, hey guys, what is up? Codex here, once again, and we have gone full circle once again, and I'm excited to bring you guys the very last anime season, mid-season first impressions for the fall arc. And it's really curious because, as I had mentioned before, seasons gonna go in like a weird order. Starts with winter, goes to spring, then the summer, and the fall. So yeah, this will be the last one for this year, which is really exciting because this will be the second time that I do all the seasons again. So as for this season, it's actually not that much in comparison to like my other usual mid-season first impressions. We have 11 shows, so I might as well just start off now. So the very first show I'm going to talk to you guys about is called Rigatsu no Line. It's really cool because I've been waiting for Shaft to animate more things, and it's really nice to see them come back with something a little more laid back, not like super over the top like any of their Monogatari series. But Rigatsu no Line is basically highlighting the story of someone who needed a home to stay in. So he, the main character, had to move in to this new home, and basically he meets these 3 other girls there, and it's basically the highlight of this story. It's really funny too because I've never seen Shaft actually do a slice of life anime before, so it's a really interesting take for them, like seeing them do something apart from their ordinary. So it's just really nice for them to do it. Of course, if you're a fan of Shaft, I totally recommend seeing it because I'm a big fan of their studio, honestly. And next is something. Now we go from like slice of life to something over the top. As I had mentioned before, Shaft wasn't doing something over the top, so now we're going to something else. And this is called Drifters. And Drifters is actually told to be one of the best animes this season according to social media and other types of news. And it is really, really interesting. Actually, the art style kind of reminds me in some ways of older shows, which is really cool. But yeah, it's got probably some of the most interesting battles in it, and yeah, it's just really nice to see something like this. It kind of can be very reminiscent of things maybe like Hellsing. Some people even mentioned it even reminded them of like JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, like as if it was the studio that made it, it's their own touch on it. So yeah, if you're really a fan of something with like very, very interesting, over the top, maybe even like extremely exaggerated fights, but we're talking about anime here, so of course things are going to be extremely exaggerated. So I really think it's worth checking out. And after Drifters, we have something also that's kind of like, what? Like, they have shows like this? Of course they have shows that are really weird and different. So this one is called Flip Flappers, and like any anime that comes, like when anime first comes to someone's mind, the first thing they're probably always going to think about is something like, oh, like a magical girl or a magical girl story. And this basically highlights that, but this is very, very different. And actually, the studio that made it, they're called Studio 3 Hertz. I've never heard of them before. Same for Drifters. The studio that made Drifters, I've never heard of either. It's called Studio Good Drifters. So Flip Flappers is also something that's really popular. It has a very simple art style, but the idea of like the dimensions and like exposing all this really, really insane reality bending magic is just really, really interesting. Like, it's not something you would see on like such a cute art style, so I think it really, really makes it worth watching. And it's funny too, because you would think to yourself, oh, something like this is probably never going to be popular. Then again, it turns out to be popular. So yeah, I'd also recommend that. Actually, all these shows that I'm watching I think are always worth a shot. And next we have Tawawa, which is another slice of life show. This is basically, it's actually very ecchi, but the thing about it though is just that for the characters themselves, that's probably why people would watch it. But yeah, it's extremely simple. It's an ONA, so ONA represents original novel animation, I believe, and it's supposed to be just really short, like a short series. So I mean, we're talking like 3 to 5 episodes and stuff. Not exactly the most popular show, of course, because first and foremost there's ecchi material in it, so that of course sadly lowers down its rating by a lot. But anyway, if you're into that stuff, it's definitely worth checking out if you're interested. And after that, okay, so the next show I'm gonna talk to you guys about is actually probably something that I had a feeling would happen sometime throughout the anime industry. It's called Girlish Number, and basically what it talks about is this girl who wants to become a seiyuu or a voice actor in the anime industry, but as she's trying to, get a role, get used to her job, get used to the work environment, meet co-workers, get into the industry, get into a show, become popular, all of these things that a voice actor would really be sensitive to, and it's taken in such a satirical fashion. Like, I've heard many things, and I heard that because the creator of Yohari no Senshin, or Odagairu, actually helped write this. So that's also a big plus, because Odagairu was very popular, so of course you can expect it to be quite promising. And it's really funny too, because you're like, man, you're like making fun of the industry that you're in. So I mean, I had a feeling someone would do it eventually. So yeah, you guys, it's super funny, or quite funny, and kind of sad in some ways, because she's trying as hard as she can to get her role within the anime industry. That's just like anyone trying to get a role in the movie industry, gaming industry, any big media industry. So yeah, it's really interesting. I totally thought it'd be worth a mention. And plus it's like all over social media. So that's that. And next, alright, so I know everyone's probably gonna question me for like mentioning this show, but honestly, on social media, even like, you can't say a show won't be popular, because no matter what, the show is going to get its fans eventually or somehow. So the next show, we're about hitting the halfway point right now, Keikjo, and it's basically the show. How do I mention this? It's like, okay, I'm just gonna say wrestling and booty. Those are the 2 things. Oh, and boobs. There's gonna be 3 things you need to know about the show. But that's about it. And let's see. If I go to pages, see, the thing is funny is that I go to like websites and I look for its just general rating. I know I usually I never ever pay attention to ratings, because they don't usually to me they don't mean anything. But I just wanted to see because I was curious, and surprisingly Keijo has a 7, and usually you expect something as nonsensical as this show itself. Who in the world would make a show like this? And so he has a decent rating. Well, first off, it actually has some pretty great humor, quite a few famous seiyus, and I'm guessing the whole idea of it being a sport and being competitions, and the thing that's really funny too is that the whole when it shows the competitions and it shows the matches and the matchups and stuff, actually extremely cinematic. So I mean, hey, if it's popular, it'll get there, or it will get what it deserves. So, yeah, give it up for that. I think that's all I gotta say for that. And next is something, well, of course, magical girls are a very popular concept throughout the industry. So, this one, let's see, oh yeah, it's called the Magical Girl Raising Project. And they're just raising project. I mean, that doesn't sound like the most interesting thing for a narrative, but basically, like most shows, it's okay, I'm gonna give you an offer that you can't refuse, and then the main character or main heroines or just characters in general are like, okay, maybe something good will happen if I take this offer. And basically, the main character takes the offer, and it's just like, oh god, what have I gotten myself into? And yeah, it's probably one of the most twisted shows. Like, it reminds a lot of people of Play Madoka Magica, or PMM for short. It's like, who knew something as cute as this would be so dark? So for any of you PMM, or what's another show that's like that? Actually, I don't know really many 2 shows like it. So this show, the Magical Girl Raising Project, or Mahou Shoujo Ikusei, Keikaku, I think that's how you say it. It's definitely worth a watch if you're into 2 of those things with a, I guess you could say, a pretty dark premise, magical girls of course, and really, really conflicting storyline. So, yeah, definitely check that out. Magical girls are definitely popular this season. Okay, and now the next show is probably, honestly my favorite this season. Now, I have a quick question for you guys. It's like, how do you know a certain studio made something? Well, there's a wall scroll over here. We can't really see it. It's for Steins Gate. And one of the most significant things about Steins Gate is that within its title, there's actually a semicolon. That's really unusual. And the thing's funny is that the creators of Steins Gate made Occultic IX, which is the next show I'm talking about. And guess what? It has a semicolon in it. So the most reasonable way to figure out that Studio of Steins Gate made something, well, for the semicolon. That gives you an idea. So you got like Steins Gate, Occultic IX, Chaos Head, lots of other stuff. Anyway, to get to the show itself, anyway, Occultic IX had probably one of the most intriguing preview videos, or PV for those who do not know, like out there. Honestly, like, I watched the PV a couple times, and they have just really, really satisfying, minimalistic visuals. You have the seiyus mentioning lines and stuff, and build excitement. And yeah, so basically, as the title mentions, Occultic IX is about 9 people who are trying to figure out the mysteries behind cults, as it mentions, like mysterious things that happen throughout the city. Like, are they true? All these controversial things like demons, and ghosts, and murders, and like very, very controversial things. And 9 of them are all related. Like, they somehow, all the things that they do are all very connected. And it's really, really like, actually right now the show's like gotten to a turning point. Like, it's hitting a, well, not really a climax, but it's starting to build. Like, there's a lot of tension in the air, and things are happening, and you don't know why. And honestly, I gotta give it up to the creators of Steins Gate. It is very polished. I'm a big fan of their studio. Actually, let me just look right now. I'm not a... Who's the studio that made it? It's A1 Pictures. A1 Pictures is pretty popular. So, yeah. If you guys are really into, like, mystery, thriller, it is dark. And actually, it's got a bit of humor, too. I mean, Steins Gate had that, so... Yeah, if you're a big fan of Steins Gate, I honestly think Occultic IX is worth a shot. Okay, and next. Okay, so I mentioned Magical Girl about like 3 or 5 times already. But anyway, we're gonna turn back time a bit, and the next show I'm gonna tell you guys about, the best way to probably key into your memory or make you go, oh, I know about that show, is Izetta. And basically, Izetta is a witch, and it takes place during an alternate time. It's during, like, an imperial period. It sounds a bit redundant. But, it's during, like, an imperial war. But then, there's this witch, and her name's Izetta, and she's supposed to protect, or actually she's very close to this princess. Shout out to the princess, though. She's voiced by, Hayami. Probably one of my all-time favorite voice actors, like, ever. She voiced, like, Miyuki and Yukino, and yeah. So, anyway, it's really interesting to see something like this, because, I mean, I think Izetta reminds me a lot of, like, Hayao Miyazaki's works, because you don't see like a witch going around like a steampunk or medieval era. Like, who would see that? And it doesn't make sense too, because it almost seems overpowered in a sense. But anyway, I think it's really cool. I mean, the thing where people take like two different time periods, like you take the past and like maybe modern times, and you somehow like put them together. I don't know, it's just something about combining spaces and time or time periods in ways that I never could have imagined. I just think that in general is really cool. So it's called Shuumatsu no Izetta, and I totally think it's worth a watch. I'm doing some of these shows have hit the halfway point and some haven't. For this show, it's actually at 5 still. So we're actually nearing the end almost. There's 2 more, and then there's 1 left over. And the next one, oh wow. Actually, for the next one again, it's actually another magical girl show. I mean, if you see Shoujo, or you see Mahou, either of those 2 words in there, it does in fact mean magical girl. And this one wasn't as high as rating as the Magical Girl Raising Project, but anyway, as for me, I usually get really attracted to the art, and this one's called Matoi, the Sacred Slayer. Not too like over the top as other ones, but you know, it's got like a pretty reasonable narrative. You got the girl and her companions, and you gotta go search out and find the reason why, and go take care of the evil forces. Classic storyline like that. I don't know. I just think giving things a shot is fun. So that's that. And for the last show, Vivid Strike. It's basically when I hear Vivid Strike, it's funny because there is a lot of shows that actually do use those 2 words in it. So I got confused and I was like, oh, it's like this other show, but then it wasn't. So yeah, it's the same thing, or it's a very like a storyline that you could probably, seems predictable in a way. It's like, okay, this apocalypse happened, I have powers, I should probably use them for good. And yeah, that's basically what happens. All these shows are very heroine based. There are a lot of female characters. It's really interesting because usually most shows have a male protagonist, but this season almost like half the shows, or even like 3/4 of the shows, have female protagonists or heroines. So yeah, that about wraps it up for 11 shows. And the only one left over, of course, is a twin star Exorcist. As I had mentioned before, super exciting because, I mean, it's about, I think it's at like episode 32 or 3 right now, and it's nothing close to 50, so keep on going. Anyway, you guys, I think that wraps it up. Thank you so much for watching. We did it again. We went all the way around, all the seasons. This is the last one for this year. Anyway, you guys, as I say it again, thank you so much for watching. As always, stay honest, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.